Good morning, and welcome to All Things 36 PFT. I'm Dwayne. Today's episode I'm kind of excited about because I don't see a lot on the internet about it in YouTube in in the construct that I wanted to talk to you about today, and that's 3D printing and RVing. You can find tons of stuff on RVing. You can find tons of stuff on 3D printing, but I'm not really seeing a lot when it comes to RVing and 3D printing together. And that's what today's video is going to be about. For Christmas this year, my son bought me a 3D printer because he figured I needed more time to relax and have a hobby. So at first I was a little skeptical, and then I got bit by the bug. And since Christmas, I don't think my 3D printer has ever stopped. So I want to go through the basics of 3D printing. There's a ton of material on YouTube that talks about 3D printing and all its uses and the materials. I'm just going to hit the wave tops, and then I'm going to show you the kinds of stuff that I printed off because it's an incredibly handy and crafty device that can potentially save you a lot of money when it comes to upgrades and repairs. So with that, let's get at it. So 3D printing, there are several different kinds. It doesn't have to be an expensive hobby. You could spend a few $100s, and you could spend, the sky's the limit, thousands of dollars on 3D printers. My 3D printer is a Creality Ender 5 Pro. It's nowhere near the top of the line. I think my son said he paid about $250, $300 on it. I didn't really research. I would say it's an entry model, but it has tremendous potential and tremendous capabilities to be able to print certain things. As you spend more money, you get more options. With mine, you can really only print in one color at any given time. But when you spend more money, you can print in multiple colors as you go. The printer is kind of like CNC, or computer aided design and crafting, in the fact that you use software to either design something and then you can upload it to the printer, or you can go on the internet to lots of different places like 3D Printables, Thingiverse, and there's already patterns for tons of different things. So if you search for a handle, you can get a selections of thousands of different handles. You pick one that makes sense to you, and you throw it into a software that will slice the pattern into layers. And that's something that the printer will then print out in layers to finish the product. A lot of the software, whether it's for designing, like literally designing from scratch, and I have an example today of something that I designed from scratch, or downloading it, it's all free. There are some sites that have really advanced patterns that they do charge for, but it's generally not very much. Why is 3D printing a benefit? Is honestly, you're printing parts for pennies on the dollar. A spool of filament might cost you between $20 and $30, depending what the material is. But that spool, which weighs about a kilogram, can last a long time depending on what you print. When we talked about slicing in the software, part of it is something called infill. So you can print something and be completely solid on the inside, which is going to have it's going to be lighter and less likely to break. But when strength is not the absolute necessity, then you can have a lower infill for something that may be cosmetic or light duty. So your average infill is like 10 or 15%, maybe 25, and that's going to have a certain amount of strength, but it can have a shearing effect when it comes to, if you bump into it, it might crack and break off. Whereas if you print something at 65 to 100%, it's going to be semi-hollow to completely solid, which can add weight, strength, durability, and things like that. As far as materials, the PLA is the most basic of materials that you can use. But there are other materials, PETG, ABS, even up to materials with glass and carbon fiber in it. And as you spend more money on the material, you get a lot more strength. When you start printing in things like carbon fiber, you probably may be an engineering student going to university, and you're designing a gadget, and you need high strength, high durability. Well, then you use something like carbon fiber or ABS. But be warned, if you start using stuff like that, you need higher end printers, and you might need ventilation, because the fumes that it gives off with certain materials are not good for you. So it demands some sort of fan, exhaust fan, and maybe even like a printing tent where you put your printer in it, so that you don't end up onboarding some harmful fumes. So that's the basics when it comes to 3D printing. There are tons better videos than what I just described of designing and printing and materials. Go do your research. So with that, I'm going to take you around the motorhome, and I'm going to show you over the past few months what I've been printing and what it's been for, and what kind of infill I've been using. Everything that I'm showing you today is printed out of PLA, which is one of the most widely used. So with that, let's go take a tour and see what I've printed. Okay, so in my wardrobe, I'm not much for hanging things up. So Tara and I installed these wire shelves because we like folding everything up and having access. It's not really stocked up, so it's kind of disheveled right now. But there are printing patterns to be able to hang hooks and stuff like this, so that you can hang your sunglasses, or your glasses, or earphones, or whatever. These small coat hangers that are offset, so they don't take a lot of space. Those are an example of 100% infill, so that they don't just snap. So if you use a 10% infill on that, I guarantee it wouldn't hold very much for very long. My last video about the engine compartment. So when I made that second panel, if you saw that video, I needed a handle to be able to pull up on that. So that's a 100% infill right there, because you kind of have to tug on it with a pretty good amount of force, and you don't want it shearing off in your hands. So that worked well. I have obstructive sleep apnea, so my my CPAP, I wanted to be able to suspend my air hose, so I printed these little clips that the tube will clip into. So those screw into the wall. You could double side tape them, but they're not as durable that way, and they will eventually come undone. So that's something that's been very helpful to keep the hose out of the way for the headset that I use. Then we'll come over here. So I have a Bluetooth speaker. So I printed this carrier from a pattern. This has got a lower infill of about 25-35%. I got another one in the basement that I'm going to show you that actually broke. One of these side pieces had sheared off. So it's pretty safe there because it's protected by the cabinetry. And then remote control holders. Instead of having a drawer taking up space and remotes, and where's my remote? I printed that, and I had to scale that to fit it. So I'd measure each one of the remotes and do a little bit of math, and I scaled using the software to expand it in the way I needed. Then let me see what else. Oh yeah, Tara's power station for her Apple Watch and her buds. So I printed that, and now because she's got 12 volt power points right by her head. She can go and charge all of her stuff, and it's ready to go in the morning. Then we'll head into the bathroom, and not a lot printed here, but I made a soap dish, and it's a soap dish. We talked about being able to print in multiple colors, so it's actually 2 pieces. So printed that in black, and then I print that in what they call wood, which matches the towel pretty good. And then so that was pretty good. And then for the shower, I printed these baskets. In this case, I actually even printed the bolts that hold it together. It's when you print it in better quality, obviously you can have threads. So that's a simple, I don't know, it was a metric bolt and thread. I think it was 6 millimeters, and so that worked well. So toothbrush holder. And then let me see what else we have. More remote control holders. Let me see. I got my notes here. Oh, I forgot something. So we have central vac, but I really like my Dyson. So I printed this holder for the wands and all of the parts, so they're easily accessed. So there's a great example of, you can pretty much print whatever you want. You just do a search on Thingiverse or 3D printables for Dyson, and depending on what model you have, you'll find all kinds of stuff to be able to print off for it. More remote controls, easily stored away. Then I printed some flower pots. Tara wanted instead of the art here, so we made these small flower pots that I haven't installed yet. And we'll just put some fake succulents or something like that in there, because I can't be crossing the border with any live products. So I'm looking forward to doing that. And then my cup holders will not hold like a big Yeti, so I printed that. And now instead of my Yeti flopping around, my Yeti fits in there, and it's good and secure. And then I didn't really have anything to be able to, have sundry items. Like when I'm crossing the border, I have my passports and my Nexus in that pocket ready to go, so I'm not driving and reaching for my wallet or anything like that. So that's very handy, and I actually might print some other stuff too. Another one, sorry. An eyeglass holder, so it would mount on the wall right there. I don't know if I'm going to use it yet, but I decided to try it out, so I can put my reading glasses or my sunglasses by my drive station or by my bed. Then this is 2 parts for Tara's iPad, so that she can store her iPad by her passenger seat as we're driving. And then these are clips for the awning, the window awnings, so I can just double-sided mount these to the wall, and I'm going to be able to clip the rod in there. Something like this might be a little bit prone to breaking, because that's obviously very, very thin, but obviously because it's thin, it has to be almost, if not all, infilled. So it could be a crash and burn, or it might work really, really well. And then from there, I think we can look at going outside, and I'll show you an example of something that I designed myself. So I've always wanted, when I was looking for the a diesel pusher with a big enough basement, I wanted to be able to have a 12-volt cooler. So I did that. But I needed to get power to it. So this is what I did. Using some 3D software, I designed that box. I bought the panel online. I strung power from directly from a fuse box that I installed from the battery bay, ran it to this basement, and now I have power that is on demand to be able to charge phones out here, to be able to power this cooler, and then I can add circuits as I need. And I jerry-rigged this panel so that the whole thing doesn't have to be accessed at the same time. So if I want to know what my power is outside, I just hit the switch and it tells me I got what I got for power. If I want a 12 volt USB, there you go. And if I don't want it, then I just turn it off. And then this is the power for the cooler, so I want to turn that on. I told you about the other calamity I had. So there's an example of, and I don't know if you can see it. You can see the infill. So, you know, that might be 20% infill. So you save on material and you save on weight if weight is an issue, but it does have a shearing force. I printed another one at 100%. So like it doesn't take very much to break these. And we'll go back inside. Okay, here we are back in the RV. I'll just be short. 3D printing is fun. It can be a full-time RV hobby that you can bring along with you. There are smaller printers that actually use a different material that's a resin-based material. So basically the printer has a vat that you can print in the resin, and it will again slice it in layers. The benefit of that is that you can, if you're into more like making figurines or stuff like that, you can do a lot more detail with like a resin printer. But I can't really say to strength and durability as far as gadgets to be able to fix something. But I think when you see what I printed, that it is, you're printing, what would a handle cost? So maybe if you could find one that looked half decent at a dollar store, okay, yeah, you might be able to get it for $1 or $2. But if you want something a little bit more stylish or rugged, you might have to go to Home Depot and pay $3 to $10 for whatever you want. So when you're printing, you're literally printing for pennies on the dollar, unless you're going with the extremely high strength materials, maybe a part for an engine or your generator, hypothetically. I will put links of Thingiverse and 3D printables if you want to get an idea of the kind of things that you can print. You can just print just about anything, not only just for RVing, but in your house, your workshop. Tons of tools that you can download and print for nothing as far as patterns go. So that's it. I'll be visiting shortly with another episode really soon. Thanks for tuning in. You can like and subscribe if you want. I'm not looking to make $1 million out of this, so do or do not. I'm just happy that you're watching. Thanks.